with all respect to those in the General Assembly, that this ought to go. This is a pretty big issue that affects everyone in one way or another. And that, those issues that was brought forward in reference to the inequities that are that exist on death row ought to be debated, discussed in the public domain. And so with that, I would urge and respectfully request that those on City Council support this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Fusco. Councilman Neal?
Yes, ma'am. Can someone please state what's been changed in this substitute? I noticed it came across around 3 or 4. I just noticed it, so I'm not sure what the change is.
Yes, Councilman Neal, we can. I actually had asked if the sponsor would be willing to urge for a conversation to look at what we've been talking about, some of those racial biases and inequities. So we're going to actually have the clerk to read in the substitute, the added piece.
There's an additional whereas clause that says, whereas council urges voters to educate themselves and to engage in conversations about the unjust application of the death penalty as it relates to race.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Neal.
That concerns me, that we're going to ask our constituents to educate themselves. I mean, we as council haven't educated ourselves. Brought legislation in for us to have racial equity training. We've known about the problem of structural and institutional racism for going on 4 years now. Have brought in legislation for us to have training, and this council voted it down. Again, if I was to ask members on this council, what is equity, I would get different answers. So for us to ask our constituents to do something that we're not, well, I'm not going to say we're not, that someone in this council are not even willing to do, let's not gaslight our constituents. This right here is what concerns me about us. It's placating. I mean, let's really do the work of the people. This body has not engaged in any kind of racial equity training, period. And now we're going to ask our constituents to do it. This is what gives me concern with this piece of legislation. If members feel that the death penalty should stay, just say that. But the play on race, and to play on race, when this body has voted down racial equity training, no. I mean, if I'm wrong, if this body has not voted down racial equity training, please correct me. But have been talking about it for years, and we have not taken one step as a collective body to educate ourselves, so that when we use these words in policy, that we're actually using them the right way. And to play the race card this way, when it really counts to someone losing their life, man.
Councilwoman Samples?
I too echo the sentiments of my colleague. I think that first, I wish that, and I won't say all, but I wish that council members would have taken the time to actually speak with the representatives from Columbus, actually read the proposal that has been put forth as they discussed the inequities that have taken place as it relates to the death penalty, especially amongst African Americans. I don't think we would have had to put such a frivolous clause in a resolution. It's embarrassing. It's disappointing. As a Black woman, I am very concerned that we put a one-liner in the place of the inequities that go on in this country to Black people and especially Black men. and we put it in a one-liner as if it's just a fly-by-night statement. This is something that's been going on for too long. Whether we step up and do something about it, I do believe something will be done about it. I just wish that we would be honest with ourselves. And if you support it, say you support it. Don't hide behind a resolution. If you support the death penalty as a Democrat in a red state, just say that. And hide behind voters to do the work for us. And make this state pay millions of dollars to make them do the work that we should be doing, that we should be educating ourselves with, and not putting the onus on them. It's very disappointing.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Samples. Again, I want to thank you for bringing this before council so that we can even have this conversation. It is no secret. I think there are definitely issues that must be addressed and must be talked about, and they have to start with a conversation as it relates to racial biases and inequities. But my issue is with this piece, there is a voice that is missing, a voice that I hear and talk with far too often as a funeral director, and that is the voices of victims' families. I have sat with far too many of them, helping them in that final moment to make arrangements for their loved ones who have lost their lives to some absolutely horrific crimes that we could not imagine. And so for me, I support this piece because it allows them to have a voice, but not just them, for any and everyone to have a voice on such an important and personal issue to all. So those are my comments. I don't know if there's any other council members that have a comment at this moment in time before we take the vote. Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Nay.
Neal.
Nay.
Amopian.
Aye.
Samples.
Nay.
Sommerville.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 9-3.